katoa no mai ki te hui o te Pūroro Hātepe ai tēnei rā. Welcome everybody to today's Pūroro Hātepe Regulatory Processes Committee meeting. Tēnā whakamohoi mai ki te au ki te tihi kai tohutohu manapori rainei mina ka wihi koa I te hui. Please let me or the Democracy Services Advisor know if you intend to leave the meeting. Morning tea will be at 10:30 a.m. Thank you, councillors. As you may have noted, I am chairing today's meeting from the good grace of Simon Wolfe, so I just ask for you to bear with me as we move through a new process. First, I'd like to open this meeting with the Karakia. Please, e tū. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he teo, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mauri ora. Councillors, are there any apologies? I have Councillor Pannett and Deputy Mayor Free for early departure. Are there any other apologies? Nope. In that case, I would like to move the motion that we accept the apologies. Do I have a seconder? Cool. Councillor Wolfe seconding. Excellent, thank you. That is carried. Councillors, are there any conflict of interest declarations? Do I need to do anything? No, cool. Right now I'll move to 1.4, confirmation of the minutes. I would like to move the motion that the Pūroro Hātepe Regulatory Processes Committee approve the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 10th of November having been circulated and that they be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free. And now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Thank you, councillors. That is carried. 1.5, items not on the agenda. There are no items not on the agenda. So with that, I will move on to 1.6, public participation. I will just be checking that we have Michaela Manley online, speaking to the Development Contributions Postponement for 5 minutes.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, thank you.
Ko Michaela toka wingoa. Thanks for the chance to speak to the application for a postponement of my development contribution fee under section 2.6 of the Wellington CC contribution policy. I made a written submission and just wanted to talk briefly to the reasons for the application, I guess. It's, as an individual finishing a construction this year, it's been quite a challenging year, as everybody knows, for many reasons. And this is in the interest of managing impacts on the people involved in the building, including myself, I guess. The $3,700 contribution fee, which I think is reasonable, was flagged to me quite early in the process by the council building consents team. So I was aware of that and had made provision for that. With various things, including COVID price rises, various things shifting throughout the process of the year. I've arrived a few weeks before Christmas. The money essentially had to be used to cover extra things, including COVID costs for on-site facilities required under level 3 and 2. So essentially what I'm applying for is the chance to utilise a 6-month payment period to cover the development contribution and have access to our code compliance certificate in order to allow the bank to pay my builder and his contractors for the final invoice. So that was really it. And yeah, thanks for the chance to have this considered.
Excellent. Thank you, Michaela. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Pannett?
Oh, kia ora, Michaela. Thanks very much for coming in, and well done for building your own home. It's not easy when you're a single parent. I very know well what that's like. I'm just wondering if there's any other barriers that you've encountered when you've been doing your project, or is it the development contributions that have been the main problem?
Good question. I could probably talk at length to the challenges along the way. It is. I managed my own contract, so I used architects for the building consent process and to get the building contract in place. But yeah, it was a project management sort of as an individual. But yeah, I think I was surrounded by good people. I think all trying to do the right thing. Barriers, I guess, just availability of materials was the big one, and managing multiple sort of contractors and timelines. I guess it's nothing unusual, but yeah, financially it's always a challenge. I think working between the banks and brokers and the building process is definitely challenges and ways that things could probably work better, but I don't think I'm unique in experiencing those challenges.
Cool, thank you. Councillors, are there any other questions? Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in, Michaela. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. Now we will move along to Pat Vanaka on behalf of Empire Cinema and Eatery. Can I just check that Pat is present? Kia ora. Kia ora, Pat. Would you like to come up and sit at the public participation area? Yes, yes. Is that good, or the lectern? Apologies, Pat. We're just trialling a new system, so I might get you to go to the lectern just over here. This is our first time we've had public participants in person in a wee while, so please.
I can take my mask off, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Pat. You have 10 minutes to speak to this, and if you would like to leave some time for questions, that might be helpful.
Thank you very much. I'm Pat Vanaka from the Empire Cinema in Island Bay. I did speak not so long ago just regarding the changes to the cycle lane just last month, and very disappointed with the decision of the removal of over 100 car parks. That is going to have a massive effect on the businesses, including mine. But we're here, I'm here to actually talk about the car parking directly outside the Empire Cinema. Now, there's the only changes, I suppose, is I require for the business to operate, I suppose, is to have some sort of time limits on those car parks outside. I did ask for this in 2017, and I have been asking, and finally I'm here. So I think what's been presented is acceptable to the Empire and to the business, and to I suppose the residents and other people that come into Island Bay. And I won't go back into the numbers. I think you've already heard those numbers. With the amount of people that do come to Island Bay to visit the cinema, I think it is important, especially for older people and for families, especially now. I mean, only just this week, we are in the early parts of the holidays, and with the rain and inclement weather, we've already seen congestion in the area. So that's all I really have to say. I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? No. Thank you very much. Did you have anything else you wanted?
About 3 minutes too.
No, thank you, Pat. You were very clear.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks very much.
Cool. Thank you.
I suppose.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm
Sorry, Pat.
just confirming, Pat, that you are content and enough with the changes we're proposing.
There was a slight amendment to the original one, which was the 10-minute car parks, which I'm just not the only business there. So there is a dairy across the road, and also another very popular cafe in Betsy, and I suspect they would want it. I haven't spoken to them, but I'm sure they would have made a submission if it was.
Well, it's going to give us a great deal of pleasure to approve these, I would say, and I'm sorry you've had to wait so long.
No, it's okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Pat. Excellent. Thank you. Very efficient. Right now we are going to Bernard Moulton on the Mercy Street traffic resolution in Island Bay as well. Do we have Bernard present? Kia ora, Bernard, welcome. Yep, just over at the lectern there. Excellent, thank you, Bernard. You have 5 minutes, and if you'd like to leave some time for questions, that would be good as well, and you can take your mask off.
Okay, thank you. I presume that those present here would have seen my submission and know what I'm talking about.
Yep, you can take it as read.
I live right next door to the back of the theatre. And the back of the theatre is the back entrance to the eatery, the part of the cinema. And my driveway and their backyard are right next to one another. There is a problem. It hasn't been a problem for the last 6 or 7 years, or however long the eatery has been there, because I don't have a vehicle. But if I had a vehicle, and it's quite probable that the person living in my house may have a vehicle soon, if the property sells, the person is quite likely to have a vehicle. And what has been going on and continues to go on and will for as long as far as I can see the eatery is there, is numerous trucks pull up across my driveway. That's going to be very, very difficult at all. It's a very awkward street for the amount of traffic that it has. I'm sure you will know that it's a bus route, although the buses only come from east to west. And as I mentioned to Zachary, there are big, heavy trucks that come up from the supermarket. A lot of the big trucks that service the supermarket with stock and what have you, they park in Derwent Street in the middle of the road facing south, and there must be very good reason for doing that. Maybe they for some reason can't back in, or maybe there's already a truck there. So when they leave the supermarket, they go up Derwent Street into Mersey Street and then turn into the parade going north. So you've got buses coming up there, great big trucks, not only the trucks for the eatery, which I don't think the drivers, the delivery people, have an alternative other to park across my driveway. And I can, having had experience similar to this myself, I can quite foresee where a visitor for me or somebody else maybe living in the house, they come down the parade, they turn into Mersey Street, and there's a truck blocking my driveway. Now, they can't stay there for 8 minutes or however long it takes parking there. You've got angle parking coming from both sides. The person can't drive around the block 3 or 4 times waiting to get into my driveway. I would very much like, you know, for Pat's sake, if he could have his angle parking, I can well and truly see that. I've seemed a good idea until I've realised that the vehicles parking across my driveway is quite very likely, in not too distant future, to be a real problem. Now, I'm grateful for the efforts that the council have made in response to my submission. They say regarding the noise of the heavy trucks, they've tried to address that. They used to come between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. What else is it they've done to try and solve my problem? The yellow line. Now, putting a yellow line there, it's all right. I mean, it's putting a law in place, but the drivers don't have an alternative. I mean, they're simply going to be parking there. As I don't know whether you've received this information, but not only do they often park across my driveway, often they're positioned far enough out of the road so that they don't have the angle parking, which Patch is requesting. So you've got angle parking, which Patch is hoping for, plus you've got a great big truck, and you've got buses coming the other way, I don't think it's oh, is it telling me I've got...
Yeah, Bernard, I was just about to say we've got 25 seconds left if you'd like to wrap up now.
All right. Putting the yellow line there, the suggestions, whatever's been put in, it's not going to solve the problem. That's the point of it. Opposite the cinema, there's a building for sale, 213, the parade. If the council could adjust itself by the thing, it could solve Pat's problem, it could solve my problem, and it could solve the people's problem from the ridges that come down and park their cars all day, and it could also solve the problem that the council's got if it's just cut out a whole lot of parking in the street.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bernard.
I'm sorry I haven't left time for questions, have I?
That is no worries. Councillors, because we're running ahead of time, I will allow a question if there is one. Does anybody have a question? If not, I have a question for you, Bernard.
Yes.
Just around the accessibility of getting to your property.
Yes.
If cars are parking over your driveway, is this also an accessibility challenge for people on foot getting to your house?
No, I wouldn't know.
No. So, okay. Yeah, I'm just making sure. And so the footpath still remains clear, but it is cars access to your property.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you. And now we will be moving on to Simon Little, speaking to Thane Road and Roseneath. Do we have Simon present? Kia ora, welcome. Thank you, Simon. Would you like to come up to the lectern? Thank you, Simon. You've got 5 minutes if you'd like to leave some time for questions in there as well.
Okay, and I believe my neighbour Don will be, he was going to be speaking for both of us, so I'm not as up to date with the latest last minute revision.
I think Don's going to be following you remotely.
Okay. So...
If you would like, we can wait for Don to speak and then you can kind of add on to what he's saying, if you'd be more comfortable with that.
Certainly, if Don is able to speak now, that would be our preference.
Okay, we'll just check if Don is online. Yeah, I can see him. We'll just wait for him to come up. Kia ora, Don. Can you hear us all clear and well? Excellent. Thank you, Don. Would you like to unmute yourself? Just turn your microphone on.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Thank you. And just so you know, we've got Simon in the room and he's here to support you. And so he might be able to add on just at the end there. But if you'd like, you've got 5 minutes for yourself. And Simon, you have 5 minutes, but we'll just see how this conversation goes.
Well, the proposal seems to have come together at almost the last minute. And we're a bit confused of actually what is proposed. What we've been seeking is parking on the seaward side of a street with no parking on the other side. And I understand that Alicia, is it, has written a paragraph along those lines. But when we look at the PDF, then the reverse is the case. So we're a bit unclear about what is proposed. What we would like is parking along the seaward side so that I, with my handicapped son and other families, can safely enter their car without crossing Thane Road. You can't get in the car when it's parked against the bank on the offside. And so I have to pull out into the roadway itself so that people can get in the car. And actually carrying stuff across the road can be quite dangerous because of the traffic that comes down and speeds up a bit after all the curves in the road further up. There's parking further up north of our properties on the bank side, which is in a bend of the road, which is quite suitable for parking, I would imagine. So we really need clarification before we can know exactly what the council's proposing. I understand that Sean Rush may be seeking some further consideration of the proposal.
Yes, Sean Rush is present today.
I've just been reviewing the correspondence. If I can,
Sean, we'll just let Simon talk, and then you can more than welcome to say this in response.
I'll be very brief. So yeah, I mean we've been proactively working with council. So we appreciate it's a balancing act. So I think the real concerns we have is just to make sure that safe access for people that are less abled is maintained. And another point, I'm also advising Wellington City Council on carbon management, and I use the bus. I walk, so it's notable that very large bus is not long term fit for purpose. Mostly it's empty, so a consideration longer term would be a smaller bus.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Don. We have a few questions, so I'm just going to go to Councillor Rush first if you have a question.
Yeah, and I just maybe this might help clarify things. So, Simon, in your original submission, you talked about wanting the parking on the opposite side of the house side.
Yeah.
So, but now you're saying you want it on the house side, the footpath side.
To be clear, it's not permanent parking, I believe we're asking for. It's more that we need at times to be able to drop people off, and then Don, do you concur? And then we can park on the other side. Like we don't permanently park on the seaward side. I don't park at all. I've got a garage.
Yeah.
So we're talking really about safe egress, and for me it's more a point of actually I have trucks pulling in and delivering stuff onto my landing, and I'd like to stay compliant. I don't want to go, just double park over the double yellow lines for 5 minutes.
Okay, so but if there was a choice between parking on the bank side or the footpath side, which one would you prefer?
From a necessary point of view, for me individually, it's difficult. You're talking about me, the individual, versus you, the public. I'm in both camps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be selfish here. I'm an environmental impact assessment specialist. I'm not here to NIMBY. I'm here to find a solution. So what we think could be the solution, and I understand you've probably got residency parking issues, but if we can have in front of our properties some kind of limited parking system so that we can use as residents that area in front of our properties to drop people off, to drop materials off, and then park on the other side of the road. That's my best solution.
Cool. Thank you, Simon.
I go along with that.
Cheers, Don. And now we just have another question from Councillor Condi.
Thank you. That's really helpful because I think it's been trying to get a sense of there's the footpath side of the road, there's the bank side of the road, and like where we want those parking to be. I guess the issue is that it seems to me we're getting officer advice that it's just not safe to have parking on the footpath side around that corner. And so then I guess my question is
that's to be very clear, like I walked down that section. You've all driven up there. Everybody has to move into the centre all the time. It's not a 2-lane nice carriageway at all anywhere. There's plenty of examples where parking is worse.
Yep. So if the officer advice we're getting is that we can't put parking on that bend, then how can we make sure that there's sort of parking as close as possible on the footpath to your properties? Is there a solution there somehow that that would be helpful for you? And for you, Don?
I think the point would be it would be 13 thing, which is the on the bend bit. It's questionable how on the bend that temporary access parking is. I think it is no different in safety it's better in safety than numerous other points along that bus pathway. And I definitely take exception to the impact assessment only stating positive benefits and our submissions being put at the back. That's agenda setting. Just saying, like an impact assessment should state the negative impacts to the community and then come up with mitigation measures. It should not state all the benefits that it's going to which agreed they would be benefits, but the impacts, either issues, should be in the impact session, and then we can correctly address the mitigation measures.
Excellent, thank you, Simon.
Don, is there anything you wanted to add?
I could comment on that. The curve there is not that sharp, and there's quite good sight distance down there for a short section on the seaward side to be created as a residence parking zone, which would deal with all the problems. My son and others could safely get out of the car. And if there's a child that you need to put in a safety seat, you just can't do it against the bank. And you can't pay, if you can't park on the other side, you've got no place near our properties to do that. So I believe that there is an opportunity for a short section of residence parking on the seaward side, which would solve all the problems.
Agreed.
Excellent. Thank you, Don. We've just got one more question from Councillor Pennant.
Thanks. We all haven't driven along there because I only catch the bus. And so I guess it's pretty a little bit hair raising in Wellington because there's so much parking. So very sympathetic to you, Don, like you need parking. But do you think we really need as much as we have around there? If you're talking about environmental impact,
it seems to me that what we're really talking about is two parks in front on the seaward side for Don and for actually just the property, irrespective, to maintain access to those two properties on occasion is the thing. I mean, I'd paint the whole thing yellow, except for access points, and people should use more public transport.
Cool, thank you. And we just have one more quick question.
In regard to how many vehicles there, sometimes there is a heap of vehicles. In fact, really that's what brought this whole issue up, because of restoring apartments up further north, further south. That's largely got abated now because the tradies now park around the intersection to go up to the top of the hill. So that's resolved most of the problems. It's the occasional vehicle that's parked inconsiderately on the seaward side that stuffs things up. So yellow lines on the seaward side, but for a section where residents can park there when necessary. We're not going to stay there overnight. It's just drop off, basically.
Thank you, Don. Councillors, just because we're running ahead of time, I will allow one more question from Councillor Condi, if it's a quick one.
Very quickly. Don, I was just wondering if you or your son have a mobility parking permit and whether a mobility parking space here would address some of your issues.
I haven't a mobility pass myself and don't need one. It's the younger people and people with disabilities entering cars, that's a problem.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Don and Simon. Great teamwork. I would like to invite you to, if you would like clarification on the proposals, officers can clarify in the next agenda item and talk about some advice to councillors' questions if you'd like to stay present for that.
Thank you.
Certainly. So do you mean I sit down and wait for a bit?
Yeah, excellent. All right, thank you, councillors. With no more public participation, we are going to move to traffic resolutions, item 2.1 on the agenda. No mai Brad Singh, ki te hora o te kōrero. Please welcome Brad Singh to introduce the report.
Kia ora. Thank you, councillors. It's my pleasure today to introduce the latest report on traffic resolutions. We are recommending 12 resolutions to you today. All these resolutions have been through the consultation process. One of the resolutions that we consulted on has been withdrawn, and one of them, which is the Mersey Street one, has been amended. With me today, I'll have Sun Tek, who will be joining me to answer any questions if you have any questions on these traffic resolutions.
Excellent. Thank you, Brad. Councillor Rush, partai from you.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. So you've heard the discussion with Simon and Don. As I understand it, the original proposal was to have remove parking on the bank side, right?
Yes.
And then there was discussion about preferences to have that parking saved on the bank side, but I don't know, it's all a bit confusing, to be frank. It seems to me that I think the residents are looking for residence parking or short-term parking, but as I understand it, because of the size of the bus and the size of the road, we can't have parking, even short-term parking on one side with parking on the other side. Is that correct?
Councillor Rush, we can't have parking on both sides because that will obstruct the bus services.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Condi.
Thanks. I guess what we've just had is kind of a request for some short-term parking on that footpath side of the road near to 13 where there's a curve. Can we safely have parking on just that side of the road? Can we switch essentially and say no parking on the bank side and safely have parking on the footpath side through that section?
I can answer that. I think
it's on the band. Cars will have to cross the centre line. So with the sight line is very limited. So we do have an option that would address Don's and Simon's concern, but that would reduce more parking on the street. So the original proposal that is in front of the councillors now, committee now, is 10 spaces on the bank side. But if you're going to stagger the parking, putting some on the footpath side and some on the bank side, there'll be 8 spaces because there's a location where we need to prevent parking on both sides to allow the bus to get past. So there'll be a loss of parking if we split it into bank side and the footpath side.
Yep. I guess just following up on the comments we had from the residents saying that in their view it's, there are lots of places that are more unsafe in terms of having parking around bends in this area. What's the officer advice about that? Like, given that we're fixing this up, can we fix it up to kind of just the same standard as what's in the area, or do we have to fix it up actually to a higher standard or whatever the guidelines are?
Because this road has a public service, buses coming through, so we need to put that factor into consideration. Other roads, we just put yellow lines and still have one lane, but because of buses currently going through, we're having obstructions and the service is not reliable.
Thank you. Now, Deputy Mayor Free.
Apologies if this question is an obvious one, but if we were to put all the parking along the footpath side, what would be the parking loss? Would it be, or the retained parking? I think you were saying we could retain 10 parks if it's on the bank side, 8 parks if it's a mix, and what about if it's just for completeness, if it's all on the footpath side?
If it's all on the footpath side, I would be concerned on the bend.
Right,
the bend
that's not advisable for the sightline issue.
So we've got to consider safety, a thoroughfare, which is obstruction by parking spaces. So we have to arrange parking in such a way that we allow sight lines plus accessibility for larger vehicles.
Is it possible to ask the submitter what they think about the choice between the 10 on the bank side versus the 8 in a mix?
Yep, you can ask.
I'm not sure which submitter I would ask, so I invite both of you to make a comment on that. There seems to be a potential to have a mix of parks on the bank side and the footpath side, but it would come at the cost of 2 parks. And I'm just wondering what you think about the trade-off.
Don, did you have any comment?
He's on mute.
You would need to put your mic on, Don. You're on mute, I think.
That's the answer.
Thank you.
Yes, I thought that was a reasonable compromise. It does reduce parking, but you would need a stretch of about at least 4 cars on the seaward side to make it work, I think.
Thank you, Don. Simon, did you have any comment to that question?
I'm not. But for me, it's much of an issue, the reduction in the number of cars.
No, cool. Thank you.
Okay. So it seems that both of you think that the splitting with 8 parks but evenly distributed is a better option than not having any at all on the footpath. That's what I'm picking up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Next, we have a question from Liz Kelly.
Morena, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, rather than, I can see that there's an appetite with councillors to come up with a solution to accommodate our submitters, but rather than do that on the fly, I guess, and I guess what I'm asking is, have you as an officer and someone who's been involved in this got a solution that would be a win-win for everybody, rather than us try and come up with one?
Yeah, we do have a solution that was drawn up that would consider that the proposals that we can.
Yes, Son, I think thanks. And Zach's going to send that to Alicia now. We'll try to get up on the screen.
Yep, thank you. We're just going to pause for a few moments to get the image up on the screen. Yeah, we'll just go to Councillor Condi, next question.
Just quickly, I was just curious if once we see this alternative proposal, I guess my question is, if our preference was for the 8-space mixed both sides, would we need to reconsult, or is that something that we can do today on the basis of the consultation that's already happened?
Good question.
We will have to consult again because, yeah.
So would that be a problem?
Not necessarily. We've just got the image shared up here on the screen. Is it in front of councillors at the moment?
Yeah,
we're just working on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you see that, Don?
Probably not. Thank you, councillors. We will.
Don, you're on mute there. If you could just turn your microphone on.
Well, I think that's a fair solution.
Excellent. I just have one partai for the officers then. What would the impact be in terms of reconsulting again, and I guess your workload or any costs associated with this going out again with a different solution?
It would be just an amendment to the TR that we have already prepared, so yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, councillors. Are there any other questions on this traffic resolution?
Yeah, I didn't actually hear that answer. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, we will have to amend the TR that has gone out. It's not a major rework. It's just a minor adjustment.
Just quickly for the councillors and information though, Sun. Can you just set out exactly how that amendment would take place?
That amendment will have to be submitted for public consultation, but you will have missed the February round. The next round will be in April next year.
So reconsulted, but and also a delay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, councillors. I'll just note that we will have 10:30 morning tea, so we will be able to caucus a little bit more and maybe find something everyone's happy with. But in lieu of that, are there any questions on any other traffic resolutions in our papers? Yeah, cool. Councillor Condi, we'll go to you.
Just on Mersey Street and the submitter we had coming in asking about a loading zone in that space. Is there a need for a loading zone in the street? And if so, is there somewhere else we could put it? So obviously in front of his driveway is not a good place. Is there somewhere else that we could put it that that would meet the needs in the street?
What we have suggested is to put yellow lines across the driveway to allow access to residents' premises. Now, that will be followed up with enforcement. If that happens, it can be legally enforced. In terms of the loading zone, there's currently not a space where a truck can actually pull parallel to the property without reducing even more parking spaces. So it's not a straightforward solution at this point. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the street, and you know, the only options as you look like they're kind of further up the street. Is is that a possibility for the loading zone to be further up the street, or is that then too far away from?
It's too far away to be any use, and it's likely that the truck would still be placed where it is nearest to the premises they are servicing, which is a common practice. And enforcement is the only way to address this issue with yellow lines across the residents' premises, and enforcement to follow up, roughly when they are doing their servicing.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Soon. Are there any other questions? If not, I might suggest an early morning tea so that we can all have a bit of a breather, and then we can iron out any of the last changes to any of the traffic resolutions. We all happy with that? We will return at 10:30, so we'll be back in 15 minutes. Thank you so much, Don. Thank you, councillors online. Liz, yep. Hātepe Regulatory Processes Committee. Thanks for bearing with us. We are now going to move on to the traffic resolutions paper. We've had a introduction by our officers. Mā wai te motini whakataka koutou. Is there a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Condi.
Kia ora. So thank you for all the discussion about Thane Road and to the two people who came in to speak on that today. So we've decided that we're going to withdraw that traffic resolution today, and officers will go away and reconsult on the alternative that we discussed, where there would be parking on both sides of the road. And there would be 8 parking spaces. The reason that we need to reconsult is because where there's additional parking loss in that option, we actually need to give people a chance again to reflect on that and give us their feedback if they need to. So that will just be withdrawn from today. So if you can see it on the screen, it's just been crossed through, and it will come back to us in April. I also wanted to just thank officers for the work around Mercy Street and Island Bay. It's been a long time coming. I know they've been waiting for a really long time to get that P180 parking. And, you know, it's really important that we can do these things for businesses and be as responsive as we can. So it's, you know, I know that staff are working on ways to be more efficient and make sure that these kinds of changes can be brought through more quickly. So, you know, we look forward to seeing that. Other than that, we've just got a lot of broken yellow lines this month, looking at, you know, mostly safety improvements and accessibility improvements on some of our narrow streets across the city. I don't have anything further to add today. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Matthews? Oh, no, Liz Kelly was faster. Sorry, Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Liz. Would you like to speak? No? Councillors, would anybody else like to speak to these traffic resolutions? Councillor Rush or Pennant? Yep, Councillor Pennant.
Super briefly, this just shows a need for government reform. I do not think we should be sitting here deliberating on some of these things. And in fact, if we want to reduce costs and relieve the burden on staff, it would be great if these could just be delegated. Kia ora.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Rush.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks very much to staff and colleagues for listening to the Roseneath folks, and hoping that we can come up with a solution that works. Cheers.
Thank you. And I will just briefly speak now, which is to just say thank you to all of our colleagues and the 2 public participants. It really felt like a collaborative process, and I'm glad we've got a solution for you today. With no other speakers, Councillor Condi, would you like a right of reply?
Just to say how delighted we are to have had you with us today, Councillor Rush. You're welcome back anytime. Regs is always a lovely venue. We're always happy to have our colleagues here.
Yes. Oh. I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please press 1. Those against, please press 2. If online, a tick or an X. Excellent. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, officers. You're more than welcome to say, Councillor Rush. We are now moving on to agenda item 2.2, development contributions postponement request for 3 Livingstone Street. No mai Nicole Taida and Mark Patamore ki te hora I te korero. Please welcome Nicole and Mark to introduce the report. Apologies, I'm just reading these sentences for the first time.
Good morning. Just following on from Michaela this morning, so she has asked for postponement. We are generally supportive of this. The only caveat is that we would put a statutory land charge on her property after 6 months if it hasn't been paid.
Excellent, thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? Fantastic, very clear and concise. Thank you, Nicole and Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mā wai te motini e whakatakoto. Would anybody like to move this motion, move this paper? Councillor Pennant.
Just very briefly, it's always great to be able to support someone who's made a big achievement, like it's really awesome. And so if this is helpful, then very happy to support. And I guess just obviously it's just another bit of evidence that the building market is really tough, with increasing costs of materials, that it does make it difficult for many people. Kia ora.
Excellent. Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, happy to second this. I'd also like to thank officers for the way that they've dealt with the situation. It shows a lot of flexibility and compassion, and I like that a lot. And I think that it's also good that the person who's applied for this has come to council and worked through an issue in a really, really good way. So I'm absolutely happy to support this.
Awesome. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak? Oh, Councillor Rebecca Matthews.
I was trying to second, but I was too subtle in and then I was having a property inspection, actually. My landlord's here.
Oh my God.
So if I was chatting, it was to the property management company. So I just want to also support this, and congratulations to the submitter for getting there. And it seems a very sensible and compassionate approach. Thank you.
Awesome. A great day at Regs. Thank you. If there are no other speakers, I'll go to Councillor Pennant for the right of reply. No? You're all right. Excellent. Now that the motion has been moved and seconded, please vote. Excellent. Thank you very much. That has carried. All right, fantastic. Now we're moving on to item 2.3, proposed road stopping, land adjoining 26 Northland Road, Northland. No mai Sarah Jane Still, ki te hora ai te kōrero. Please welcome Sarah Jane Still to introduce the report. Yep, just up at the lectern.
Is this on? Hello. So this is a road stopping at 26 Northland Road on the Governor Road frontage of the property. It is approximately 136 square metres that we're looking to stop and sell to the adjoining owner. We've had no feedback from the public with letters that we've sent out at this stage, and we're now taking it to you for approval before we move on.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions? I just had one quick partai, which is, do we have an assumption of the cost of the land that we are looking to dispose?
Yeah, so prior to committee, we get it valued by a registered valuer, and the applicant agrees to go forward with the process based on that valuation, so it's market value for the land.
Excellent, thank you. With no other questions, are we all good? Were there any other points that you wanted to note?
No.
Thank you. Excellent. Is there a mover for the motion for this paper? If not, I'm happy to move. Councillor Matthews.
I'll move, and just to say thank you, officers, for their work.
Excellent, thank you. I'm very happy to second. I don't need to speak. With that, is there any debate? If not, right of reply? We're all good? Excellent, thank you, and we'll put that one to the vote. Perhaps Sean has spooked. It's a good tagline. Excellent, thank you, councillors. We're now moving on to agenda item 2.4, proposal to stop paper road adjoining 529 Takapu Road and Belmont Regional Park. No mai John Varenz, ki te hora ai te kōrero, and Siobhan Proctor to please introduce the report.
Kia ora koutou. This is a road stopping proposal.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Do I stand?
No, you don't need to
Point
stand.
of order, I would like to move a motion under, I think it's 3.2 of the standing orders, that this lay on the table without further discussion in order to consult with iwi.
Thank you, Liz. I'm just going to get some advice from Officer Poloka. Thank you, Liz. I've just had some advice. So once the paper is moved, then you can move that motion. But at this stage, the paper is not yet moved. It is just being introduced from the officers. So once we get into the debate section, you're very welcome to move that, and I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
May I continue? So the proposal is to stop approximately 2.2 hectares of unformed legal road at the end of Takapu Road and vested in the Crown for recreation purposes, and amalgamate it with the adjoining Belmont Regional Park. And we took this through to the Tawa board, and they've supported it and endorsed it, and I think Councillor Condi will confirm that for me. Happy to take any questions.
Cool. Thank you, John. Councillors, are there any questions? We'll go Councillor Matthews first, then Councillor Condi.
I just wanted to check, given the heads up about a procedural motion, is there any time sensitivity to this proposal? It doesn't matter if it's delayed.
It absolutely does matter if it's delayed. We've done this under real pace because Transmission Gully will not be opened if we can't get this over the line.
Aaron is very excited at that prospect. We'll go Councillor Condi next, then Liz Kelly.
I might actually, John, just if it's okay with you and through you, Madam Chair, just to clarify, whilst I think John is correct technically, due to the nature of the pace we've been moving to get this through, it does appear that inadvertently we have assumed mana whenua have been okay with the development more broadly, but I understand there is a concern that we haven't actually directly consulted with mana whenua in this instance. John's comment about the opening of Transmission Gully, I'll have to clarify that, and I've just popped out to make a call now. I'm not actually sure that it's entirely accurate, but I will like to get some advice from the project manager of that program, who I deal with at a much higher level in terms of the rollout of that particular project. But I just wanted to make that point to councillors. I'd need some clarification, and it may be an opportunity to continue on with the agenda while we put this one on hold and we bring...
Can I just make a few comments to that? Because
Sure.
I wasn't asked that specific question. So, you know, iwi were consulted as part of the transmission designation process, quite broadly. So that includes Ngāti Toa and Taranaki Whānui, and that was about 8 to 10 years ago. And so they absolutely have been consulted, and this, as part of the designation and resource consent process, the ecological mitigation planting has been carried out in the road, which seems, for all intents and purposes, as part of the Belmont Regional Park. So for Transmission Gully to meet its obligations, it does need to be road stopped. It's a minor matter when you look at the entire Transmission Gully project, and it's appropriate for it to become reserve because it's isolated and surrounded by the reserve, and as part of reserve management, so it'll be better managed as reserve and better consulted on with iwi as reserve than it would be as unformed legal road, which it currently is. So it's been an oversight, but this actually fixes something that should have probably been fixed a long time ago.
Yeah, thanks, John. So that's good and helpful additional information. I'm just quickly working with the chair now to see if we can clarify that earlier question.
Councillors, we might look to defer this paper to the end of the agenda for this meeting, just so officers can be super clear on advice. But what we will do is we will finish off the rest of the questions now, if that's okay. Cool. Next we have Councillor Condi.
Thanks. Again, given the procedural motion, I guess I would like some advice when we come back later in the meeting about whether we could move this paper rather than laying it on the table, which means we wouldn't come to it until regs next year, whether moving it to council next week would be an alternative that would buy us a little bit of time, but means that we're still kind of moving quickly. So, Liam, if you can kind of come back to us with whether that might be a compromise that gives us a little bit of time to dot our I's and cross our T's, but still keep moving at pace, that would be great.
Okay.
We'll confirm that.
Yeah, we will confirm that. That's a good question. Thank you. We were just about to go to Liz for their question. Okay. Liz, if you'd like to go.
Okay, so my question of the officer, and I'm sorry I didn't catch what your name is.
John.
John Vreens.
John Vreens. So my question is that in the papers, engagement and consultation, council made an effort to communicate and to consult with the Tawa board on the 2nd of December, and you've spoken to that as well. So given that you did that, why didn't you make the same effort with mana whenua?
So under the Public Works Act, there's no requirement for consultation at all. So this is just procedural in terms of going, the stopping is in the catchment of the Tawa Community Board. So that's why we are approaching
It's also
them first.
in the whenua of Ngāti Toa.
Yes. So that's why we're approaching them first, and then there's no public consultation per se, and there's no requirement for consultation under the Public Works Act, which is the appropriate mechanism for this unformed legal road to be made into reserve land. There will be consultation under the Management Plan and Reserves Act with iwi as required by the Reserves Act, the Management Plan.
So my concern, John, is that there are a number of assumptions that have been made in this paper, and I specifically refer to implications for Māori under 23, where the assumption is made, and you're saying to me that there is no need to consult. Well, first of all, you're saying that you haven't consulted with iwi, and then you're saying in your paper that the proposal doesn't conflict with the principles of the treaty, because even though it's within a Māori precedent...
Apologies, just if there's a question.
Yeah, I am. I'm speaking to it. That the area identified isn't significant to Māori. So how do you conclude that? Because I can tell you that Takapu Road is very significant to Māori, and particularly to Ngāti Toa.
I can only say that the Public Works Act does not require consultation, and the fallback position for this process would have been actually for the Crown to basically resume ownership of the legal road, unformed legal road, under Section 323 of the Local Government Act.
So can you just clarify for me that this paper road was taken under the Public Works Act?
It was proclaimed in 1889. I don't have the full history and background on that.
But the land was taken under the Public Works Act.
But it is covered by the Counties Act 1956, which means the Crown can take it back at nil compensation. So to help facilitate, I know, look, but to help facilitate this transmission gully, designation requirements and resource consent requirements, we are asking council to consent to the stopping of the road, making it reserve, because it's a far more expedient process to make it reserve and to achieve the protection for the mitigation planting for transmission gully, which will allow it to open.
Thank
you, John. Why was it left for the last minute?
That's a very good question. And I don't have the answer to that because it's not my process.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that, Liz, if you can. Look, I just want to acknowledge, Liz, from an officer point of view, both under the Local Government Act and any other RMA function that might apply here, our obligations to consult with mana whenua. I think John's answer is technically and legally correct, but we still have an obligation as officers to consult with mana whenua, and we endeavour to do so, whether it's in a collaborative design process or during resource consenting. We don't always get it right, and in this instance, John's tried to paint a picture of the pace and the problems this project has run in. So I just want to acknowledge that, Liz. Importantly, for officers, just to also clarify John's earlier comment about holding up the project, I want the councillors to have all the information they need to make a call on whether this is deferred to the council meeting as per Jenny Condi's suggestion, and we get that advice to you, Liz, and get the advice to councillors regarding the opening of the road itself, and any other matters that may be mentioned here, which is why we're requesting potentially to defer this later on to the agenda, so I can get some phone calls made and get some advice to councillors.
So can I just say, Madam Chair, though, that the reason why I'm raising this is not for me. This is the instruction that I've been given from mana whenua. So it shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, really, thank you for that, Liz. I just wanted to relay to committee that what we will do now is defer the paper till later in the agenda after actions tracking and the forward work program, and we'll be able to revisit that with some clearer advice. Thank you so much, John, for asking all of those pārtai. We really appreciate it, and Liam as well. So we will not, just for councillors and people online, we will not be moving the paper right now, but we will revisit that later, and you can still put your procedural motion, Liz, later on if need be. All right, thank you, councillors. With that, we will be moving to 2.5, proposed road closures. No mai Maria Tuma ki te hora a te korero. Please welcome Maria to introduce the report. She is present.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
I'll just put my video on so you can see me, that I'm actually a person.
Yay.
So the proposed road closures for this meeting are the New Zealand versus South Africa Test match in March, the ICC Women's World Cup, which is for the whole of the month of March. These events are going to be held at the Basin Reserve. And we also got beers at the Basin that was going to be held in December, but it has now been postponed to April, providing they all meet the criteria, of course, of the COVID regulations at the moment. And we've also got the Alexander Sealed Hill Climb. If that is approved, I will be going to PSR to talk to them about the wildlife in that area and how it can be protected from their event.
Excellent, thank you, Maria. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Condi.
Thanks. Maria, I was just interested that I think actually all three of the road closures that are being requested around the Basin Reserve are for multiple days.
Yes.
But for where the road closure might be for 7 days, but there's actually only events on 2 of those days, which I'm not sure has been the practice in the past. Can you just talk us through why the Basin Reserve is asking now for the slip lane to be closed even on days that aren't event days?
Because they need the extra days on either side to set up the Basin Reserve, like bring all their trucks and all their equipment and they need for, especially for the cricket games that are televised, and especially for the ICC Women's World Cup, the amount of equipment they need to bring into the basin and the services they need to supply to the people attending are huge. So they ask for those extra days, and we have done it before in all of them, all the cricket matches. They do ask for the setup and breakdown to have that extra time to get it all in and get it all out safely.
Thanks, Miriam.
Does that make sense?
It does, thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Excellent. Councillors, are there any more pātai? If not, excellent. Ma waiti motini he whakata koutou. Is there a mover for the motion? Would someone like Councillor Wolf? Thank you.
Yep. Just a thanks to Maria for dealing with this. Some of the issues with road closures aren't as simple as what comes through here. There are complexities that Maria hasn't necessarily had to outline to us, so I thank her for that and for all the other work that she's achieved during the year, and that's all I really need to say.
Excellent, thank you. I'm happy to second. I do not need to say anything. Councillors, debate. Councillor Pennant.
I was a bit blown away by the hill climb application. Who would have thought that the motorsport people would be caring about emissions? So I thought that was excellent, deserving of some acknowledgement that they're looking at going to electric vehicles. So well done to them.
Excellent. Councillor Condie.
Yes, and I just wanted to acknowledge Councillor O'Neill, because I think the reason that there's now a climate change section in all of these is because of questions that you've been raising in regs since you joined this subcommittee, and that those questions have come up before. This is an annual event, and when we've discussed this event before, that has been raised. So just thank you for following that up, because it is great to see that coming through now in all the discussions of all the events that we have and the road closures we consider.
Thank you, Councillor Condie. Would anyone else like to debate? I'll just quickly jump in there. Just to note, Councillor Condie, we are not a subcommittee. We are a committee. We are a committee of council. Yeah. We are just as important as any other committee. And yeah, just to note, and big thanks to Maria for working with PSR, in particular the ecological assessments when it comes to car races around our community. So thank you. Now, would you like a right of reply, Councillor Wolf? Nope. Excellent. I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Excellent. I declare that the motion has been carried. Thank you. Right, thank you, councillors. We are moving on to 2.6 action tracking. I would normally love to welcome Liam Hodgetts to introduce the report, but he is not present in the room. Thank you, Siobhan. We can take that the actions tracking paper has been read, but councillors, are there any questions for Siobhan, or if you have any notes? This is the paper if you'd like. With no questions, were there any notes that you wanted to mention, Siobhan?
No.
Says no. Excellent, thank you. All right, we have a mover in Councillor Wolf. Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Pennant, thank you. Is there any debate? Fantastic. With a mover and a seconder, I put the motion. Thank you, colleagues. That has carried. We now move on to the forward work programme. No mai ki te Siobhan Proctor, ki te hora e te kōrero. Please welcome Siobhan Proctor to introduce the report. We will take that as read. Councillors, did we have any questions on the forward work programme? No. Siobhan, did you have any notes on the forward work programme?
Quite a light forward programme.
It is.
So no, fairly self-explanatory. Yes, you look like March is going to be quite light, but I'm sure there'll be stuff comes in between now and then.
Oh yeah.
So, and you'll be not accepting the Island Bay traffic resolution at the March meeting. That will be going to Planning Environment. You'll be pleased to know.
Ah, fantastic. Excellent, thank you. I'm happy to move this one. Would anybody like to second? Councillor Condi, thank you so much. Is there any debate? If not, thank you. I will put the motion. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Excellent. And just in regards to the item that we have delayed on the agenda, we're just going to take a 5-minute adjournment now as we locate officers. But I welcome you to go and have a bit of a stretch, make a cup of tea, and we'll signal when we're ready to come back. Thank you. Kia ora, colleagues. Thank you very much. We are just coming off of this adjournment for the Hātepe Regulatory Processes Committee. The process from here on out is we're just going to have some clarification from Liam on some information, and then the paper will need to be moved and seconded. And then, as foreshadowed earlier, a procedural motion can be moved once the paper has been moved and seconded. Liam.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. So just quickly, councillors, yes, I've been in touch with the Transmission Gully program and they're confirming that this won't hold up if it's delayed to the 15th, the project more broadly. And officers will endeavour now tomorrow, even today, if we can get hold of Ngāti Toa's team and start our conversations and apologise for the lack of referral.
Excellent, thank you. I will now move to moving the motion, and I'll just briefly speak that it's really clear we need to send a strong signal around engaging with mana whenua, and I would like to thank Liz Kelly for your attention on this and the responsiveness of our officers to take on board this feedback, and that we're able to see a solution here today. With that, I'll invite Simon Wolfe to second. Simon Wolfe reserves. Thank you. That has been moved and seconded. Is there a procedural motion? Thank you, Liz. Would you like to speak to the procedural motion?
I would like, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move procedural motion 25.2F, which is, if you want to give me the exact words, it's basically that this matter will go to the next council meeting.
Ka pai, that's what we've got up on screen. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Rebecca Matthews, would you like to speak?
Yes, briefly, I would just like to thank Liz for her interventions here, and it shows us once again how important it is to have mana whenua representation around the table. I would like to see a little bit more care taken with our papers, that, you know, things like the statement that this land was not significant to mana whenua, you know, we have heard today that it very much is. And I guess it's just a little bit of a lesson that and I'd like to thank Liam for his interventions and his comments before, that we do, you know, we as a council, we have our own principles about how we want to engage with mana whenua and operate in a responsible te tiriti partner role, and that so it's always important for us to hear from mana whenua about what they think about their whenua and what they want us to do.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews.
Thanks.
No, cool. And because it is a procedural motion, there is not normally any debate, but I signalled to you both that you could speak, so my bad. But with that, we will move to voting on the procedural motion, Standing Order 25.2.
But I was on my soapbox, Terry.
Excellent. That has carried, unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. With that, this paper will be coming to council next week, and I would just like to now close the meeting. A tēnā kura mutu te hui, e tū mō te Karakia. Anuhia, 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 ki te uru tapu nui, ki o ātia, ki e māma, te nākau, te tēnā, te wairoa, e te ara takatu. Ko e rā e rongo, whakaari e ake ki runga, ki o ātia, ai rā, ko wātia. Thank you, Officer Paloka. Yes.